Good evening, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news this evening, 2 former correctional officers to be sentenced in January for fraud. 2 former correctional officers are to be sentenced on January 14 next year following their fraud convictions in the Kingston and the St. Andrew Parish Court last week in connection with an employment scam at the Tower Street Adult Correctional Center. Albert McLeod and Toreen Tolo were convicted on Thursday of obtaining money by means of false pretense, conspiracy to defraud, and the multiple breaches of the Correctional Service Act. Their bail was extended. The Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency arrested and charged the men in 2017. The conviction stemmed from an elaborate fraudulent scheme orchestrated in 2016 between McLeod, Tolo, and an inmate, former radio disc jockey Andrew Price. Price, posing as a recruiter, preyed on aspiring artists with promises of lucrative employment opportunities, work permits, and visas. These individuals were deceived into making substantial payments to Price as well as McLeod and Tolo. Mocha says its investigation revealed that the Price recruited the former correctional officers to facilitate his operations by acting as intermediaries and collecting funds from couriers who received the payments from unsuspecting victims. Following reports of the scheme, Mocha launched a comprehensive investigation, including a 2-day sting operation, which led to the arrest of Price, Tolo, and the 2 couriers. McLeod was later apprehended after being identified in an identification parade. Price pleaded guilty in 2017 and received a concurrent sentence of 18 months on each count, while McLeod and Tolo proceeded to trial. In delivering the guilty verdict against the former correctional officers on December 12, Chief Parish Court Judge Chester Crooks noted the significant breach of trust involved in the case and the grave implications for public institutions when those entrusted with authority acted dishonestly. Farmer shot dead in runaway Bay St. Anne. A man was shot and killed in Mount Edgecombe runaway Bay St. Anne on Sunday, bringing to 50 the number of murders recorded for the parish. Residents found the body of 40-year-old Damon Livingstone, a farmer of Mount Edgecombe, about 8 a.m. It is reported that explosions were heard and the people went to investigate. Mr. Livingstone was found along a road with several bullet wounds. He was pronounced dead at hospital. Clergymen confront a flare-up of violence in Manchester. Members of the clergy are taking their evangelisms into homes across Manchester following a recent flare-up of violence in sections of the parish. The joint effort among the 10,000 Men and Families movement, Mandeville Ministries Association, and the Manchester Municipal Corporation is seeking to steer people away from a life of violence and criminality. Bishop Rowan Edwards, a member of the 10,000 Men and Families movement, says it is critical that the church takes the message of peace and togetherness into troubled communities.
We want to meet some of the people who are doing the wrong thing. We want to have meetings with them. We're going to be having breakfast meetings with some of the men in the community. We'll be meeting with the women in the community. We'll be meeting with children. We're going to be going through the entire communities, all the communities in Mandeville that is seeming to be flaring up, and send the message of love, peace, and unity. We have experienced that in Spanish Town, and we are happy to say that violence in Spanish Town is not like what it used to be. We go through all of St. Catherine, meeting with all the fraternals in St. Catherine, and we have seen a level of decline in Spanish Town in particular that is welcoming.
In the second half of 2024, a wave of fatal shootings swept across Manchester, triggering the police to implement a string of curfews, increase their presence, and place a ban on entertainment events. Last week, gunmen shot a policeman during a robbery at a wholesale. In another attack in November, a bus driver was shot at the Homewood Technical High School in view of students. A parent was also gunned down near the Christiana Moravian Primary and Infant School in September, while 2 people were killed and 5 others wounded during a brazen daylight attack by gunmen in the Mandeville Market District in October. Trade unionists against the suggestion to cap public sector wages as percentage of GDP. A suggestion for a cap on public sector wages as a percentage of gross domestic product is not finding favor with a trade union leader, Vincent Morrison, as the government prepares to start negotiations for the 2025-2028 compensation period. Addressing the final Economic Program Oversight Committee quarterly press briefing on Friday, Chairman Keith Duncan said this recommendation comes against the background of growing concerns over the increase in share of public sector salaries relative to the nation's economic output. He said projections indicated that public sector wages and the salaries are expected to reach 12.8% of GDP for fiscal year 2024-2025. But Mr. Morrison, who is president of Union of Clerical Administrative and Supervisory Employees, says the turnaround in the economy is partly due to the sacrifices made by public sector employees. He is rubbishing the argument that the country's economic program is under threat because of increase in salaries.
I am saying that Mr. Duncan's statement to cap it, that is to cap wages, is untimely, unreasonable, and unfair to the Jamaican workers. What we want is free collective bargaining. But we must understand that industrial relations does not operate in a vacuum. If we're going to start the fight long before the fight starts, you're going to have a problem, in the sense that what we should be doing now is sitting down and look on the whole economic landscape in a more rational way. For example, the Bank of Jamaica is pushing 4 to 6% inflation. That is not working, because when you go to the supermarkets, when you go to the pharmacy, professional fees, etc., etc., it's not 4 to 6% you are seeing on the movement.
Jackson complains about a delay in Portmore Road repairs. Member of Parliament for St. Catherine Southern, Fitz Jackson, has blasted the National Works Agency over the delay in carrying out emergency repairs to damage the roads in Portmore. According to Mr. Jackson, the situation has reached a crisis level in the municipality, home of thousands of government and the private sector employees. He says all major roads have been badly damaged, and this is causing major gridlocks, making it extremely difficult for people to get to work on time.
The traffic comes to a virtual halt in order to navigate the huge and numerous potholes to avoid accidents and severe damage to motor vehicles. This results in much mental and emotional distress to the residents of Portmore and all others using these corridors. This prolonged neglect of road repairs have caused enormous loss in valuable work hours and productivity of persons using these roads in Portmore, as in many cases throughout the rest of the country. I call on the Prime Minister, in whose portfolio this massive neglect has taken place, to act immediately.
Governor General Sir Patrick Allen to undergo spinal surgery. Governor General Sir Patrick Allen is to undergo an elective spinal surgery on Monday to alleviate the debilitating and painful effect of a medical condition. A statement from the Office of the Governor General said during Sir Patrick's recovery, Custos Rotulorum for Kingston, Stedman Fuller, will deputize to ensure continuity. Thank you everyone for watching. See you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for another news update.